I'm really, really excited to be here, and I thank everybody for coming out today. I try and read everything I can read about people in addiction recovery that are doing innovative and things involving exercise and nutrition. I have Google alerts, and I just spend a lot of time following writers who write about that. So, like, I had this Google alert came up on my computer about this new organization that was founded up in Rochester, New York. And they were doing this really innovative stuff. And I was like, wow, that's awesome, you know? And so right away, I reached out to Yana and to Sean, and we started chatting. I did a post on my blog. I wrote a post about the innovative stuff going on up here, and it did really well. Like, people were really interested in what was happening in Rochester, you know? And so I said, I gotta come up and see it myself, because it just sounded like an amazing opportunity. So that was like maybe 2.5 years ago, right? Yeah. So I came up, like, this place it's beautiful. It's grown, a lot of changes to the building, and it's exciting to see when I look on the ROCovery website and I see all the activities and the programming you have here. I just think it's an amazing thing. And it's one, I can tell you this, because I wrote a book about the importance of integrating a healthy lifestyle into addiction recovery. My book's called Spiritual Adrenaline, Strengthen and Nourish Your Recovery. And Yana, every chapter tells a story of an individual who's like an innovator and a leader in what we call the sober active movement. So Yana is my chapter 2 inspiration in the book, and I tell a little bit of Yana's story. And then Sean is my chapter 15 inspiration. Yeah. So, you know, but they're both in the book, and they're part of a growing group of people that are leaders in this movement. And the movement's about relapse prevention. And it's not only about relapse prevention, it's about quality of life for people in addiction recovery. So you don't have to be like white knuckling it and miserable. And so the book, I teach you how to integrate exercise and nutrition into a 12-step approach to recovery. So I'm gonna go through, if it's okay with you, a short PowerPoint. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for everybody who worked out with us this morning at boot camp. That was really awesome. So I'll go through a kind of short PowerPoint presentation that highlights the major issues in the book. And then if you have any questions about what we go over, I'm more than happy to answer them. The book is evidence-based, so it's really heavy on research. Everything in the book and what you're gonna see on the slides is not my opinion. It's based on science, and it's based upon peer-reviewed studies from credible institutions. So if you know, some of it you think is problematic or you don't agree with it, you can check out my science, you can check out the backup for it. I just think it's really important information for people in addiction recovery. So let me just go through this, and I have my trusty assistant here with me. I feel like I'm in good hands. So what we do is Spiritual Adrenaline. It's an online community. We have 73,000 people that follow the page. On an average week, I get between 20 to 30,000 people look at the social media across like Instagram, Facebook, and our blog at the website. So it's a lot of people, and I don't think it's because my material's really good. I think it's because I tell the stories of interesting people, like the people at ROCovery Fitness, like Yana, like Sean, and like a lot of people. But it's a growing community, and we just set up an active sober community page, which is a closed group. If you're interested in that, the idea is it's a closed group. It's not stuff that I post, it's stuff that people post, questions about the book, questions about what they're doing in their addiction recovery to integrate exercise and nutrition. And a lot of people post their own personal stories so that they can find other people that are doing the same things and they can relate to. So if you're interested, after the presentation, you can join one of those, those communities. You know, it's a lifestyle that we designed around the 12 steps of recovery. I practice the 12 steps. Not everybody does, but this lifestyle is designed around the 12 steps of recovery. It's not a replacement for the 12 steps, and it's not, if you don't work steps, you're not part of a 12-step program, it's not intended to replace a traditional addiction recovery program. It's intended to be relapse prevention and to enhance an existing addiction recovery program. So, okay, it's designed for people with at least 6 months sober or who have been sober for a period of time but are unhappy and just feel like they've hit the wall in their recovery and they want to try something new to grow. Let's cover the book. If you're interested, you can get it after the presentation today. I'm more than happy to sign it and take pictures if you're interested as well with you. Came out on January 8th. All right, so a lot of people say, and this is what prompted me to write the book, is that exercise and nutrition are outside issues and they're not directly related to addiction and recovery. And so I don't agree with that theory, and I did a lot of research, and I got access to AA's, the World Services Library, and the Stepping Stones Research Library in Westchester County. And actually, the founders of AA, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, did believe that nutrition and supplementation and a healthy lifestyle were important components of addiction recovery from the very beginning. There's one person who was documented, his name was Eddie. They described him in the records as a chronic relapser and someone who couldn't get a couple of days sober. In the records, they talk about, they would try and see if what he was eating made a difference in his ability to stay sober. And they gave him hot dogs, and they would track how long he'd be able to be sober after eating certain things like hot dogs, a lot of ketchup. They tried baking soda and all these different things. And the point is, Eddie wound up relapsing and then coming back in over time. But from the very, very beginning of the 12 steps, they understood there's a link between nutrition and your ability to stay sober. And Dr. SILKWORTH was one of the first pioneers in addiction recovery who said that he was the one who said alcoholism has a physical component. He called it an allergy, but he knew that was a misnomer. What he was saying is there's something about alcohol alcoholics have a reaction in their body that's similar to an allergy. And so he was saying way back when that the foods that people are eating can play a major role in whether or not you trigger that kind of allergic, quote unquote, reaction. Okay? What he recommended was small amounts of glucose, sucrose, and simple carbohydrates, and substantial amounts of complex carbohydrates. Bill Wilson and Dr. SILKWORTH came up with a list of they called the sister foods to alcohol, because these are the foods that break down in the body in a chemically similar manner to alcohol. And these are refined sugar, soda, white bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, and French fries. A lot of those are my favorites. When I tell this story, when I was in rehab, I would eat the entire basket of bread. I went to Conifer Park, by the way, which is by Albany, New York. Some of you may know it. So I would grab all the bread off the table. I would just eat the whole thing. And then I'd eat as many French fries I could get my hands on, and cookies. And I just knew that was like weird, but I didn't understand why. And the reality is that it breaks down in the body in a manner very similar to alcohol. And so I was going for that because I wanted to get the dopamine rush in my head, unsustainable kind of highs from the foods, in a similar manner to the way I did with alcohol and cocaine. And I should say I have seven and a half, 3/4 actually, years in recovery from alcohol and cocaine. And I'll have 6 years this year without smoking cigarettes. So I gave up cigarettes about 2 years. Thank you. Thank you. I forgot. I feel so at home here. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. I thought everyone was aware of that. But, what the research shows is that poor dietary choices in recovery, they complicate or they can contribute to organ stress and damage resulting from substance abuse. The statistics are for people are being admitted into inpatient rehabilitation, depending on the study that you look at, anywhere from 70 to 92% are hyperglycemic or hypoglycemic or have type 2 diabetes. That's a really, really high number of people. We'll get to why later. In New York State, their statistics are that 92% of people that are admitted into inpatient rehab are also nicotine dependent. When I went into rehab, I had been smoking. I smoked for 24 years before I was able to quit. I was really stunned when I saw the number at 92%, and it's 20% of the population in New York State. And the really sad statistic from the Mayo Clinic, which is a very credible organization based in California, is that of people who identify as being in addiction recovery, 52% will die of either as a smoker or a tobacco-related illness. You know, when I heard that, that really shocked me. That was one of the things that got me really focused on trying to quit. Now, this is the bad news, but there's good news coming. So don't be like, this is all going to be negative. It's going to be very positive. One of the books that I read, I don't know how many people here may have read it, was Drop the Rock. Did anybody read the book Drop the Rock? Yana? The Drop the Rock is really, really important book to me and kind of got me started on writing Spiritual Adrenaline. What they talk about in Drop the Rock is steps 6 and 7. And they talk about an area to look at closely is other addictive practices. Do we smoke, binge on sugar, exceedingly drink excessive amounts of coffee, gamble, abuse credit cards, act out sexually? And so the book goes really into detail about the issue. We were just talking about this earlier. And I plead, guilty too. When I was in early recovery, I was substituting. I started to smoke more than I had smoked in active addiction. And I was really, I put on about 30 pounds in just a couple of months from overeating on the simple carbohydrates and comfort foods. So it's something to think about once you have a foundation in your recovery of what your lifestyle contributes to your recovery or whether it's undercutting it, okay? But I think the big critical point is to understand the traditional idea that outside issues like nutrition and exercise don't matter is a misnomer. I think they really matter. Not only do they matter, they can either undercut your efforts to stay free of alcohol and drugs, or they can enhance your ability to stay free of alcohol and drugs. So they matter in a major way. The way I see traditional recovery oftentimes is we're bobbleheads. They focus on the head, but not the rest of the body. But the body is attached to the head. So you have to have a holistic treatment plan that treats psychologically and physically. The good news is that even minor dietary changes over time can lead to major changes in your health and your attitude. Let's see. These changes can be easy. They don't have to be major changes all at once. Okay, a couple of easy changes. Okay, so high fructose corn syrup. Does anyone know what high fructose corn syrup is? It's a sweetener that's put into ketchup and other foods. If you have liver disease and if you have problems from alcohol, it's very toxic to your liver. It can build up in your liver. It's very hard for the body to break down. It's in traditional ketchups that use, Heinz, et cetera, some of the brands. So I recommend people change, and we talk about it at length in the book, to vegetable ketchup made from real vegetables and sweetened naturally, not from high fructose corn syrup. The same thing about soda. There's a lot of high fructose corn syrup sweetener in soda. And so there are types of soda like STEVIA, because I like to drink soda. STEVIA is naturally sweetened. It has no colors in it. You can avoid high fructose corn syrup and other preservatives that are put in that's to help your liver recover and the other organs from substance abuse. I just want to compare, if you're looking, in the book there's an entire chapter on sweeteners that you can go to instead of refined sugars, and I'm going to explain why it's important here. I'm going to compare refined sugar to stevia in a second. Okay. And refined sugar, this is table sugar. You're getting 15 calories, no nutrients. Half a cup is 387 calories and no nutrients. It spikes your blood sugar, causing you to have mood swings up and down, and it's addictive. The issue here, and I, again, use myself as an example in early recovery, I put lots of sugar into my coffee. I'd eat a lot of cookies and other kinds of French fries, et cetera. So what I was doing was spiking my blood sugar and then crashing, and then I would go for more, more of these types of foods. And so the idea here is to try and break that cycle, because that cycle is very, very similar to the cycle of using drugs and alcohol, where you have an unsustainable high and then you crash down. So stevia is a natural sweetener. It's just as sweet, or it's sweeter than sugar. It can help reduce your cravings for your substance of choice, because you're not rising your blood sugar and then spiking it down. So it's just one example of a whole host of other types of sweeteners that you may want to think about incorporating into your diet if you're interested in trying to stabilize your blood sugar and avoid spiking, getting really high off caffeine and sugars and then crashing down. The book, we recommend a PALEO, it's called Addiction Paleo type diet, Does anybody know what a paleo diet is? Anybody on eating like a paleo diet now? No, okay. You're eating one?
No, it's impossible.
What's that?
I said no, it's impossible.
It's impossible? Why do you say that? I'm just curious.
Well, sugar is in everything, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the end of it. What is it? Meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. It's in everything.
Well, but natural sugars are different than the refined sugars, and that's...
So, I mean, I'll eat fruit and stuff like that, but like...
Yeah, but that's fine.
That sweetener, which I love, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I know.
not exactly paleo.
No, I hear you. I hear you. We recommend a paleo diet. Paleo diet is a diet that's high in healthy fats, it's lower in carbohydrates, and it's about stable, we call it stable in proteins, okay? With a paleo diet, the idea is to try and stay within foods that are all from the earth. They grew from the earth, they lived on the earth. But anyway, the idea is to avoid foods that are processed or otherwise created by man. All right. The benefits are to reduce inflammation, stabilize your blood sugar, provide sustainable forms of energy, lean out your body, and to reduce cravings. I just want to show you, I've been on a paleo diet, variations of it, for now about 6 years. So this is me this is July 11, 2011, when I got out of rehab. I was 177 pounds, and I was 17% body fat. And I just tracked the changes from 2011 to the present. I was 44 there. Here I'm 45, and you can see the difference from just eating healthy. And this is last year when I turned 50. I was 166 pounds. And that, actually, that picture there is 4.3% body fat, but that was right before a competition. But the point I'm making is what's really great about recovery, and on the blog, I put a piece on yesterday about Rob Lowe, the actor Rob Lowe, who's 54 years old. If you're interested, you know, he makes his own granola bars. He's in recovery. He's very open about that. And he learned how to create his own foods. He's 54 and he looks great, you know, and he feels great energy-wise. And the point I'm trying to make is that I looked older at 35 when I was drinking and doing drugs, and then at 40 than I do at 50 years old and being in recovery. And it's an amazing thing that when you remove the alcohol and you remove the drugs and the cigarettes as well, how your body can not only, it can heal, and aesthetically it can look it on the outside, but your blood work will show also the changes happening on the inside. Anybody, if I could do this, because you know, when I went into rehab, I had blood coming out of my mouth from putting cocaine on my gums. I couldn't walk a city block without wheezing because I smoked so many cigarettes. And you know, I couldn't make it to rehab because I got up to train in Albany and I had to go to Ellis Hospital to a cardiac unit because I thought I was having a heart attack in the station. And so I'm just telling you all this because it's an amazing thing, the recovery journey. And you can take yourself any place you really want to be, you know, if you put the work in, both physically, you know, and mentally. On my blood work, I have the blood work from Ellis Hospital back when I was admitted before going into rehab. So it's not just aesthetically on the outside, but my blood work back then, I had high cortisol levels, high white blood cell levels. I had the high levels of bad cholesterol, low levels of good cholesterol, high triglyceride levels, and a 5% increased risk of heart attack. So compared to and I test my blood now with a doctor every 6 months. He describes my blood work now as the equivalent of a 27-year-old Ethiopian marathon runner. So what I'm trying to say to you is, you know, the body is designed to heal. The liver can heal, the kidneys can heal, quit smoking, the lungs can heal. And so the message is one of hope, not of, you know, damage from active addiction can't be repaired. And you can't thrive, not just stay sober, you know. So again, you're here at ROCovery Fitness, so you get this, how important you move a muscle, you change a thought, how important a sober, active community is to your ability to stay sober in the long run. Right before my book was published, it was published January 8th of this year, but I track all the major research studies that come out, and 2 came out in September of last year, and I was able to put them in the book. One dealt with cardiovascular exercise, and the other one dealt with strength training. And both of those studies found addicts and alcoholics benefit from exercise They talk about the brain chemistry being altered in a way that prompts production of dopamine and reduce the likelihood of relapse. These are two recent studies that came out, but they all show the same thing. And so what they also show, these are the two I'm talking about in particular, exercise reduces cravings in the people they tracked, and even 15 minutes a day of walking briskly had an impact on someone's ability to stay sober, okay? And the 15 minutes a day, they say, resulted in acutely reduced urges and cravings for alcohol. So it's not like you have to run a triathlon, you have to become like a super marathoner or a triathlete. Walking around the block, the boot camp class that we did earlier, all these things make a big difference, okay? Talking about additional studies that show that people who had the concurrent illness of depression benefit as well from even small amounts of exercise. This is a chart that's in the book. What I did is I took all the major studies and I took running, swimming, bodybuilding, dancing, basketball, and I broke out the studies to tell you what the benefits were, where you get the maximum benefits for the type of exercise and the time, and the intensity that you would have to do the exercise to get the maximum benefit. So that's all in the book. I suffered from huge anxiety, both in active addiction and in recovery, and I'm telling you that if I didn't exercise on a daily basis, now I don't get, this is years later, anxiety attacks the way I used to, but I don't think I would have been able to deal with my anxiety and stress. And the research again shows that even a single bout of exercise, if you're getting anxiety, can help you bring that down and then calm your brain and reduce any kind of urges to drink or use drugs. So group exercise is shown, in addition to what we just talked about. If you're part of a group like ROCovery Fitness, your likelihood is that it increases your chances of staying sober and reduces your rates of relapse. And that's because if you're not at an event, like let's say you're down at the boot camp that we did this morning, people are going to be looking for you, and also that you build positive new relationships. And there's only a couple of organizations in the country doing this. There's the Phoenix. Phoenix is all over. Addict to Athlete, which is in New Mexico and Colorado. I was there 2 weeks ago. ROCovery Fitness, Temperance Training, and a couple of other small ones, man. So you guys are really leaders in this movement. I'm just gonna go through this really quickly. This gets complicated. This is recovery hormones, vitamins, and minerals. Different drugs have different consequences or impacts on the body, but all of them together, impact the body's ability to create hormones and other enzymes that are necessary for proper function, right? So the idea here is most people come into active addiction, even if they're overweight, malnourished, because most of the calories are coming from alcohol or comfort foods. And so what we're talking about here is, vitamins. If you start to eat a healthier diet, we recommend in the book the PALEO diet, you're starting to give your body the nutrients it needs, the vitamins and the minerals to function the way the body was designed to function. I'm not going to go through all the different minerals. And one of the points that people say to me, well, can I take supplements? Do I really have to eat right? The research shows that if you're taking, first of all, the power is on the plate. It's in the real food. Supplements, yes, they work, but will your body retain supplements? Some studies show that the benefit for people taking supplements is not as great as people who eat healthy foods traditional way on the plate. Because in the foods, you can get multiple vitamins and multiple minerals all at one time, and these vitamins and minerals have to interact together. For example, vitamin D and vitamin K, if you're taking supplements and you're not taking the right amounts, they can't come together. Those two are both necessary for calcium metabolism, right? So the point is, I used to spend a lot of money on supplements thinking I was trying to do the right thing, and oftentimes I was shooting myself in the foot because I wasn't getting the kind of bang for the buck I would get if I just ate a well-balanced meal, because I wasn't getting the proper mixture of the vitamins and minerals to function, allow my body to function in the best way possible. And then vitamin megadoses. A lot of people say this on the Spiritual Adrenaline blog or on the Facebook page, that they're taking, like, if they're sick, they'll take a megadose of some vitamin. You have to be very careful, because you got to remember, as people in addiction recovery, we don't want to stress our internal organs more. We want to be respectful of our internal organs and let them heal. And that some of these vitamins, you know, they're fat soluble. So I'm getting a little ahead. If it's water soluble, you can pee away the excess. So even if you're spending money on supplements and you're taking too much, it goes right out of your body. If it's a fat soluble vitamin, it may stay in your body, right? The body has to find a place to put it. Usually it's the liver. And so we have to be really careful about mega doses, if you will, of any kind of vitamin or mineral in recovery. And then you hear a lot about hormones. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, like dopamine, endorphins, serotonin. You know, these are all chemicals that are created in the brain that we can create in different ways. We can either do it in a healthy, sustainable way, like the boot camp class earlier, like playing with a dog, that does it, you know, like the hike we're gonna go on later, like going to a concert, you know, those kinds of things, or, you know, being with someone you're really in love with, or we can do it in unsustainable ways, like I used to do, which was 8 ball of cocaine, lots of alcohol, and those kind, and then all the kind of ancillary things that come with it. And so in the book, we talk all about how you can create or try to maximize your body's ability to create endorphins and dopamine and the feel-good hormones, but to do it in a sustainable way over time that won't come back to really bite you. That involves, this gets a little complicated, involving eating right again, because a lot of the substances, there's enzymes in foods, there's substances in foods like flavonoids that are critical for your body to be able to produce these hormones. So again, a balanced diet, we recommend in the book, a paleo diet, get you there. Free-form amino acids, branched chain amino acids, these are all things, branched chain you have to get from food, and you have to get from certain foods. So that's why it's so important to eat the balanced diet. And one of the other things I want to mention about exercise, because I'm trying to go through this a little quicker than I normally would, but is that the studies show that when you exercise and you eat right, we're talking about dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine receptors and other aspects of the brain can come back. So if there's some loss because of the usage, your body can recreate or rebuild new receptors in the brain to replace the ones that were damaged during your years of drug use. All right, so I just want to go into spirituality. The way we look at spirituality, it's not about like worshiping God. The way we look at spirituality is self-care. You know, we think self-care is the absolute opposite of active addiction. Active addiction, you know, is damaging the body. So it isn't about self-indulgence. It's not about selfishness. It means learning to love the person you're responsible for taking care of, which is you. What we recommend is not about worship, but has anyone heard the acronym HALT at 12-step meetings? Try to avoid being hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. That's our spiritual program. Try to avoid those things. And the reason is very simple. When you're any of these things, you're in an altered state, right? And when you're hungry, or when I'm hungry, I'm not a nice person to be around. I tell you that much. You know, and it's the same thing for each of these. And so by eating right and following the program in the book and joining a community like this, you can really avoid all 4 of these, which I know makes it easier to really be saying gratitude while you're sober, okay? I used to be angry all the time. And we have recommendations in the book, like eating clean, eating nutrient-dense food, and then FAB. I don't really like to count macronutrients. What I like to do is, it's called FAB. In the morning, I eat for fuel. In the afternoon, I eat to stay active. And in the evening, at night, I eat to build, to repair and to build. And so I go through all of that in the book. But when you're doing that, you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, 3 hours, so you avoid getting hangry. The same thing is true for becoming angry. We have a whole bunch of suggestions in the book. The suggestions in the book on this come from Buddhist teaching, something called the Supreme Teacher concept, meditation, and some breath works. And we have actual meditations and breath work in the book if you want to give them a try. And then loneliness, I won't get too into this because you're here. I mean, being in recovery brings you to a community, right? And in active addiction, isolation and loneliness is what it was all about for me, and I think most people. And so, avoiding coming to like the class this morning or what we're going to be doing later or this, really helps break that cycle of being lonely and feeling, outside of or not part of a larger group. And then lastly, tired. I had to relearn how to sleep when I got sober, and it's still an issue for me, even all these years later. A lot of it has to do with what I eat, before I go to bed to try and avoid, I use, coffee and sugars and things like that, but also my cell phone and texting. Like, I have to shut them off to let my mind settle down. And I go into this, I say in the book, the biggest impediment these days to having a spiritual connection is technology. I mean, it really is. I shut my phone off now. People think I'm crazy, but by 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I don't turn it back on until after I work out in the morning. And I used to leave it on all night, and I remember texting all night. I would get a text, answer it, like I would never really sleep through a night. So anyway, it's a whole new way of living, and by doing certain things differently, I was able to sleep. It makes it easier. I get to slow my brain down. So people say to me, like, what does HALT, being hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, have to do with spirituality? I think it has everything to do with spirituality. All right. So we have a 7-day detox program in the book. If you're interested in giving that a shot, we also have a 30-day plan where people can relearn structure and relearn. And we teach people how to bookend. Bookending is if you know that a workout gives you good feeling, keeps you in gratitude, and a meeting also does the same thing for you, how to bookend things at different times of the day to try and maximize your gratitude throughout the day. So we teach you that in the 30-day plan, and then there's a maintenance plan where you develop, based on your own needs, a longer-term goal. And then what I did is I took, because not everyone comes to this from the same background and health history, so I looked at the major illnesses that people come into recovery with: liver disease, kidney disease, pancreas disease, all these different things. And I have different options for people with different health histories based upon their situation at the present time. The same thing with the exercise tools. Not everyone wants to bulk up and add muscle. People want to lean out. People want to improve their cardiovascular. So there's different exercise tools for people building muscle. And then the spiritual tools, everyone's different. So there's lots of different options in the book, all right? So I thank you for listening to my spiel here today. I hope you learned something from it and you benefit from it. We have an online community, like I said. If you're interested in, it's free. You can join the online community and just check out what we do every day. And if you like the book, we have it here today. You can buy it. Otherwise, you're a part of, I'm really excited, this sober active community. We were just talking about this, that's growing all over the country. And what you have here, I think, is the model. That's when I came back. It's like the model for a lot of other communities. And so you should be excited that you have this option. You should talk about it as much as you possibly can. And you should help, talk to your friends in recovery and get them to try and start one if they don't live in Rochester, wherever they are, So if anybody has questions, I'm more than happy to take their questions. And I appreciate you sitting here and listening to this. Anybody have any questions or? No? All right, well then thank you so much. I appreciate it.
How much is the book?
What's that?
How much is the book?
The book is $17.50. You can get it today, you can get it at Barnes & Noble, and you can get it we have it today, or you can get it on Barnes & Noble or on Amazon as well. Yeah, anywhere you want, yeah. All right, thank you very much.